This is Tom Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to a new season of the award-winning Adventures in Compliance, the podcast where we look at the Sherlock Holmes short stories, movies, novels, and related material from the angle of compliance. In this season, we're going to take up the novels of Arthur Conan Doyle around Sherlock Holmes. Of course, there are 4 of them: A Study in Scarlet, Hound of the Baskervilles, perhaps the most famous Sherlock Holmes story, The Sign of 4, and The Valley of Fear. We're going to take a deep dive into each one of these novels and going to explore them over 4 podcasts. So it'll be over the next 4 months that we'll be taking a deep dive into this season. The novels in many ways fill in the gaps about how and why and what Holmes does, and they're really a delicious deep dive exploration of Sherlock Holmes, his methods, his friendship with Watson, more of the backstory on Watson. And if you have the opportunity, they're relatively short, about 100 to 125 pages per novel. I would urge you to read these novels in their entirety. You can collect them in one work and do that. And I had a ton of fun reading them and preparing for this new season. There are some great stories in here, and I know you will enjoy them. And I hope you will enjoy this season of Adventures in Compliance really as much as I've enjoyed reading the stories. Beginning today and for the rest of August, we look at the least known of the Sherlock Holmes novels, The Valley of Fear. Today, I introduce the story itself, and then today, Timothy and Fiona are back to look at some investigative lessons learned from The Valley of Fear.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to dig into some fascinating sources and pull out those really surprising bits of knowledge you missed just scrolling through feeds.
That's the goal.
And today, we're taking a bit of an unexpected path. We're looking at Sherlock Holmes.
Ah, the master detective.
Right. Most people think, fictional crime solver. But what if his methods, these Victorian-era techniques, actually hold really powerful practical lessons for today?
Well, they absolutely do, especially for complex real-world challenges.
We're talking about investigation, right? Whether that's sorting through data for a big corporate project or maybe untangling some complex compliance issue.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Anyone whose job involves finding the compliance officers, auditors, project managers, journalists, even the way you investigate, it directly shapes the outcome.
Makes sense.
So this deep dive, we're using Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Valley of Fear. It's surprisingly relevant.
Really? The Valley of Fear? How so?
Well, it gives us some incredible wisdom about navigating complex information, stuff that feels really fresh. So, our mission today, pull out 5 key investigative lessons from Holmes. Lessons anyone can use to sharpen their truth-finding skills.
Okay, I'm hooked. How does a detective from, the 1880s teach us about modern corporate integrity? Let's unpack this.
Ooh.
Our first lesson sounds foundational. Do not take facts at face value.
It really is fundamental.
So in The Valley of Fear, it starts with this pretty brutal murder, right? John Douglas at Burlstone Manor.
That's the one.
And the scene, initially, it looks pretty straightforward. Shotgun, maybe a burglar, open window, sort of textbook.
Yeah, the local police certainly thought so. Burglary gone wrong. An easy explanation.
But Holmes arrives, and he doesn't just accept that, does he?
No, not at all. That's the first key thing. He immediately distrusts the obvious explanation.
What does he do instead?
He gets, almost microscopic. He examines everything, not just what's there, but what isn't there, what seems subtly off.
Like what specifically?
Well, he focuses on things others glance over. The exact pattern of the blood spatter, for instance. The angle of the shot. Tiny details, like a single slip of paper found near the body that just doesn't seem to belong there.
Ah, the little things.
Exactly. They're not just details. Holmes sees them as outliers, inconsistencies.
Outliers, that's a great term for it.
And that's the takeaway for professionals today. You have to resist that impulse, the urge to jump to conclusions based on the first report, the initial data set.
So in a compliance context.
Think about it. An initial report might flag an isolated policy breach, or a financial dashboard looks normal on the surface.
Okay.
But like Holmes, you got to push past that. You ask the hard questions. Does the document metadata really match when they say it was created? Do the emails or chat logs actually back up someone's story?
Digging deeper.
Right. Is there some weird pattern in transaction amounts, even if each one looks okay?
Yeah.
It's about rigorously testing that first layer, looking for those tiny contradictions, those trifles.
Those trifles.
Yeah. Because often, the most convincing initial story, that's exactly the one designed to mislead you.
That's a powerful point, especially now with so much information flying around. It's tempting to just grab the headline.
Very tempting, but dangerous.
Okay, so lesson 1, question everything. Lesson 2 feels maybe a little counterintuitive for Holmes. Investigative cooperation is essential. He seems like such a lone genius.
He definitely has that reputation, but it's not the whole picture, especially in the Valley of Fear.
How so?
Look at his relationship with Inspector MacDonald from Scotland Yard.
Right, the official police presence.
MacDonald's a good detective, capable, but he's kind of stuck in procedures, struggling with how complex this Burlstone case is.
And Holmes. He doesn't just showboat.
No. That's what's interesting. He actually shares things with MacDonald. His observations, his theories, even half-baked ideas. He respects MacDonald's practical experience.
And MacDonald respects Holmes's, brilliance.
Exactly. It's a partnership. They share info, they talk things through. It's not a competition to see who solves it first.
Okay, I see the connection now.
Yeah, it's about leveraging different strengths.
Yeah.
And in the corporate world, in investigations, this isn't just like a nice idea. It's absolutely crucial.
Non-negotiable, you said.
Pretty much. Think about a complex fraud case. You need legal for the regulatory side, right? HR for sensitive interviews, IT for digging through emails and data, audit for tracking the money.
All the different pieces.
Trying to do that alone. It's like Holmes trying to solve the Burlstone case without leaving Baker Street. Impossible.
So the takeaway for, say, a compliance team
is to actively build those bridges with legal, HR, IT, audit, whoever. Make sure information can flow, securely, of course. Understand who has the piece of the puzzle you need.
create a sort of collective intelligence.
That's a perfect way to put it. It minimizes your blind spots. It dramatically boosts the quality of your findings. It really shows that, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, especially when you're up against clever deception.
That makes total sense. Collaboration is power. Okay, lesson 3. This one feels very Holmesian. Patience and persistence yield results.
Ah, yes. The long game.
I mean, think about how Holmes figures out who John Douglas really is. It's not instant, is it?
Not at all. It's slow, methodical, painstaking, really.
He's gathering these little fragments of clues, following leads that probably seem like dead ends half the time.
Right, making connections that look really thin at first.
And eventually, he uncovers this whole hidden past. Douglas is actually Bertie Edwards, this ex-Pinkerton guy who infiltrated a nasty criminal gang, the Scourers, back in the U.S.
A huge revelation, but didn't come easy.
It only came through Holmes just sticking with it. Unwavering persistence.
And that's a massive lesson. Complex discoveries are usually incremental. We all want quick answers, especially in professional life, right?
Absolutely. Instant results.
But serious investigations, they rarely work like that. You're dealing with layers of people trying to hide things, witnesses who don't want to talk, digital trails that take ages to unravel.
Sounds exhausting.
It can be. In compliance, a big investigation might mean digging through years of financial records, tracing money across borders, doing dozens of interviews, and each one gives you just one tiny piece.
So the key is
having discipline to keep going, even when the first leads dry up, to look at the evidence again, maybe from a new angle, to accept that the truth sometimes just trickles out slowly over weeks, months, maybe longer.
It's not about speed then.
Not primarily. It's about being thorough, that sustained effort.
Here's where it gets really interesting, isn't it? The sheer mental stamina needed for that.
Absolutely. That commitment to the process, even when it feels like you're barely moving, that's often what cracks the toughest cases.
Right. Okay, that resilience is key. Now, lesson 4 asks us to step back. Maintain a big picture perspective.
Crucial. Zooming out.
Holmes, in the Valley of Fear, he's not just trying to solve the murder at Burlstone Manor.
No, he sees it as something more.
He keeps saying it's just one piece, right? Part of a much bigger, darker picture, all orchestrated by his nemesis.
Professor Moriarty, the Napoleon of crime.
Who never even shows up in the story.
Doesn't have to. His influence is everywhere. Holmes constantly links these seemingly separate events back to Moriarty's network. He gets that the why behind this specific murder lies in that larger pattern.
So how does that apply outside of detective fiction?
It's incredibly relevant. Think about work. You see an anomaly in some data. A single customer complaint comes in. An employee breaks a rule. Easy to treat it as just one thing.
An isolated incident.
Exactly. But the Holmes approach is to ask, hang on, is this a symptom of something bigger? Is there a pattern I'm missing? Could these different things actually be connected by one underlying cause?
Like a faulty process, maybe? Or gap in the rules?
Or even a cultural issue within the organization. It's about shifting from just treating the symptom, the one incident, to finding the underlying disease.
Ah, symptom versus disease. I like that.
It ensures your investigation leads to real, lasting fixes. Not just patching up one hole while the dam's about to break somewhere else. You got to see the whole forest, even when you're focused on examining one specific tree.
That's a brilliant way to put it. Makes you wonder how many isolated incidents are actually signals of something much bigger.
Constantly. You have to keep asking that question.
Okay, final lesson. Number 5. And this is one where, let's be honest, sometimes really smart people can stumble. Effective communication is crucial.
Oh, absolutely vital. The final piece.
Holmes isn't just brilliant at figuring things out, he's also brilliant at explaining them.
He really is.
In the story, at key moments, he sits down and carefully walks Inspector MacDonald and Watson, of course, through his deductions, even when they're really complicated or seem counterintuitive.
He doesn't just dump the answer on them.
No, he shows his work, step by step, the how and the why.
And that is how investigative genius actually leads to impact. It's not enough to just find the answers locked away in your own head.
You have to share it. Effectively. Yeah.
Yes. You need to communicate those complex findings clearly, concisely, persuasively.
Yeah.
And often to very different audiences, right? Senior managers, lawyers, regulators, maybe even the people involved.
So it's about translation.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
Translating technical stuff into plain English. Using clear stories or visuals to show how things connect. Structuring your report so it's credible, easy to follow, and ultimately leads to action.
Because if you can't explain it,
Then even the most amazing discovery might just fizzle out. It won't drive the change that's needed. This is where the rubber meets the road, turning insights into tangible results.
wow. Okay, so wrapping this all up, it's actually crystal clear now why Holmes still resonates, isn't it? This fictional character from a century ago.
Still teaching us?
His methods, that deep scrutiny, working with others, being patient, seeing the big picture, and then communicating it all. Clearly, they're not just story tricks.
No, they are absolutely best practices, especially for navigating the sheer amount of information we face today.
It all comes back to what Holmes said, right?
It is, of course, a trifle, but there is nothing so important as trifles.
And that attention to detail, the discipline process, the clear communication, none of it is actually trivial. It's kind of everything.
Couldn't agree more.
So here's a challenge for you listening right now. Take these lessons from Holmes, from the Valley of Fear. Think about applying that same investigative rigor to your own world.
Whatever that might be.
Yeah, maybe it's understanding a complex new topic for your job, prepping for a huge project, or maybe just trying to make sense of your own personal data overload. Ask yourself, what trifles, what little details might you be overlooking right now that actually hold a much bigger truth?
A great question.
Try approaching your own information gathering with that meticulous, patient, big picture mindset. Think like the master detective. You might be surprised what you uncover.
This is Tom Fox again. The podcast voices that I used for this episode of Adventures in Compliance were actually AI generated. And I would really like to get your thoughts on how you enjoyed or didn't enjoy this podcast episode of Adventures in Compliance. So could you leave something in the comments or shoot me an email? I would greatly appreciate it. I'm going to explore the use of AI and podcasting voices, but I'd really like your feedback as well. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of our exploration of the Sherlock Holmes novel, The Valley of Fear. As I've tried to articulate in my prior podcast on the novels, there's some great compliance and ethics, leadership lessons learned from the Sherlock Holmes novel, and we're going to explore those literally every week in the month of August on this, the most little known of the Sherlock Holmes novel, The Valley of Fear. I hope you'll join me again next week where we take another look at the sign of 4 And I hope you will take this opportunity to read the novel. It's relatively short, 120 pages or so. I know you'll get a lot out of it, and it's a ton of fun. Adventures in Compliance is the award-winning podcast that talks about Sherlock Holmes in the context of compliance and ethics, a winner of several podcast awards. And I hope you will continue to enjoy this podcast as we present stories of Sherlock Holmes and compliance.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.